learn how to grow yams.
Welcome to Princess Lillian's Garden. In today's video, I'm going to tell you what is yam milking. Please subscribe to my channel and share this to others to be able to have more people finding gardening easier to produce food. You can say this plant is still quite actively growing because we have leaves all the way from the base. That's where it touches the soil, and it's got leaves all the way up. All the leaves are green except for a few that are already undergoing senescence. They are returning the carbohydrate in them and all the other nutrients to the roots of this plant. If you harvest it at this stage, it's going to be very small, because what the yam plant does is carries out photosynthesis, and gradually towards the end of the season it returns all the nutrients to the roots. So it's only storing some gradually over the year. It's towards the end of the season that the entire nutrient content from the leaves are returned to the plant. We have to make sure this has happened for us to have a successful yam milking or double harvest. We will wait for a time when there are no more leaves at the base, and most of the leaves that are even at the top part are already yellowing and browning like this. You're not going to be having these fresh leaves carry on growing. Now take note of one thing. The first yam that we harvest will be a mature table-sized yam, and then we'll need to cut a little bit off the top and put this back along with the growing roots, so that in another 2 months or 3, depending on how long the time you have left, you take a look at it when the leaves are now completely dry, bone dry, and they are falling off, all the leaves. Then you go and have a look, and you may find 2 or 3 new seedlings. This is called yam milking or double harvesting. That is, you harvested it at first and then you harvested it again. The first time being the ware yam, that's the yam you're going to eat. The second being the seed yam, the yam that you're going to plant. This practice actually helps create a lot of resource for the farmer who practices it. And that's why you see the few that I show, you can see some have done this to the yam. You see there's a little cut on top of the head, and that yam that I was holding. And then some, maybe the stem is already turned brown, and the gardener can see that it's not alive anymore. Then you can forget about doing double harvesting. One thing that can make the stem to go brown quickly is if you haven't been watering, feeding it, keeping it well staked, and it feels like, okay, yeah, I'm at the end of my life. But if that plant is so well cared for, if there's drought, it is watered, it still keeps on growing and returning a lot to the roots. The main stem all the way down will remain green. This is one thing that you need to be able to observe to know that this yam will actually be good for double harvesting. You cut off the tip and back into the soil to receive your second harvest. So those yams that you see have been milked. That is why it doesn't have that head portion shooting out. It's cut off and it now looks like a little dome. What is meant by yam leaf senescence? The way in which the yam leaf, after it has matured, grown big and grown old, returns the nutrients to the root. That's a mature leaf. It's already trying to return the nutrients. That you can see the color is changing. These are still just mature, but this is also going to start returning very soon. After this has been returning for a while, if you get to this stage, you can see that can fall off. It's carefully returning the nutrients, and this will go down the vine into the root. This has been at it. This has almost finished returning all its nutrients, and this has completely returned all its nutrients, and see, it's going to fall off. That is yam leaf senescence. It returns the food, the nutrient that it has produced, because as a green leaf, it carries out photosynthesis, which results in carbohydrates and other nutrients. So at the end of its life, each leaf returns all the nutrients back to the plant before falling off. And this is what the yam uses to swell up, and we have that giant food storage that we depend on, because the yam is a very good food of farming. When everything is gone away, you can go and find a yam, and definitely there will be food underneath. When the leaves, most of them are like this, that's when we harvest. The yam plant, that's how the leaves are. The veins are parallel, and when each leaf is matured, it returns all the nutrients back to the vine for transmission to the root storage. And that is why a tuber at the base of the yam, because all the leaves have returned their nutrients before they go away. This yam plant is still young. That's why we still have leaves close to the base. So you know this yam plant is not yet ready for harvesting. This yam plant, there are no more leaves at the base. The leaves are browning, undergone senescence. See how sparse it is now. This yam is ready for harvesting. At this point, when we look all the way to the top, you will see that there are still some green leaves at the top of this one with brown leaves. And then you harvest it, those green leaves will carry on growing. You see this bunch of yams on this side as well are still green, and this is in July. It's all over green leaves, carried out photosynthesis, but very soon, in 4 months' time, they would have all finished transferring the food to the roots through senescence, and you can see that same part. All the green leaves are gone from the base, but we still have some green leaves, especially at the very tip on top. Those leaves would carry on photosynthesizing, and when you come back in another 2 months, after your harvest, you'll still be able to find some small yams that you use for yam seeds in the following year. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the sections below and I would answer them. And if I feel it's a generally recurring question, then I'll do a video of it. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Bye.